Welcome to my video on the best Terastal for every grass type Pokemon, where we will take the pure grass type and all of the dual type grasses and assign them a Terastal typing to allow them to be the best they can be. Now, if you're looking for a specific grass type, then please do down into the description below. There are going to be timestamps with all of the dual typings, so you can go and find what you specifically want. If not, feel free to watch the entire video. Now, I do want to just give a quick plea. If you could please interact with this video in some way, shape or form, I really would appreciate it. This project has been a real big thing for me, and I'm hoping it will be a real big thing on the channel, and I really don't want to see it flop. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Just some clarification about this video. First of all, this is not an exhaustive list of every single Terastal that would work well with that typing. It's just ones that, in my opinion, would work best for those specific typings. Also, this does not factor in abilities, so in the trailer we saw that Colossal turned to a water-type Terastal and had its steam engine activated. Now, in some cases there are going to be abilities that are going to allow for this to be able to take place effectively, and it's going to allow for abilities to be used with regards to the Terastal combination. And when I've talked about their typings here, I have not considered abilities. I will talk about that separately when I do the competitive guide videos in the future. Also, some Pokemon may be suitable to use specific Terastal based on powerful moves that they have. So for example, if a Pokemon has a ground type move such as Earthquake, which is more powerful than Terra Blast, then they could definitely turn to that Terastal to get that stab to be able to allow that to do more damage. So in some cases where Pokemon have got powerful moves or a wide move pool, they may be suitable to use more variety of Terastal, but again, I have not factored that in with this one, just on the specific typings as a generalization. Here we have the grass type. Now, the grass type does have a lot of weaknesses. You have got fire, you've got flying, you've got bug, and you have got ice. But one huge thing about this is all four of those types are weak to rock. So rock is going to be your best buddy with a pure grass Dynamax. So in the case of things like Rillaboom, Sceptile, Serperior, Tangrowth, Velossum, I'm pretty sure a couple of them do learn rock type attacks anyways. Like Rock Slide, for example, you'd be then able to get the stab on top of it, regardless of if you use Terra Blast or not. And then you have got a massive coverage there. So Rock is definitely going to be your top tier one. Water allows you to cover the fire type weakness, definitely. That I'd say fire is quite likely to come out, and it also gets rid of a lot of your other weaknesses. And then ground also covers the fire weakness as well. Not very effective against bug. It does take away your flying and bug weakness as well, so it should work. But I would say rock definitely is your top tier one. But if you can't use rock for any reason, water or ground are good alternatives. Possibly even fire is another good alternative as well to have. Next up, we have the normal grass type, and at current time of recording, we only have Swordsbuck that fits into this category. But the Terastals that I would recommend for you in this case, you have got the water type and the ground type. Now these cover the fire type weakness. Obviously, if you have a fire type coming against you, you turn to a water type, that's super effective. Same with the ground typing being super effective as well. You obviously do have the aspect that you are normal type, so you will be hit by super effective fighting type attacks as well. So that's why I put the flying Terastal in, but you could also have the fairy or the psychic Terastal in replacement of that to be super effective against those fighting type Pokemon. But that was just down to personal preference why I put the flying type in there. So water, ground, flying, those are going to work fantastically for your normal grass. The next typing we have is the bug grass type typing. So this one is going to be hugely weak to fire and flying. You're 4 times weak to both of those. Now, the Pokemon that can cover that, or the type that can cover that, sorry, is the rock type. Rock type is super effective against both the flying and the fire aspects here. So having your rock type would be absolutely huge. Electric typing also covers any flying types that do want to come in against this. As I said, you're 4 times weak to that. And then the ground typing does cover any rock type Pokemon that want to come in, as well as any fire type Pokemon that want to come in against this. So those are the 3 recommended Terastal. I'd say rock is probably the best Terastal typing in this case, but electric and ground definitely work really well also. Your 2 notable Pokemon, you've got Parasect and you've got Livani. there as well. Not amazing Pokemon, but we could in the future have a really powerful Pokemon come with this typing. Here we have the Grass and Dark type Pokemon. Now there's two notable Pokemon here. There is Zarude and there is Shiftry. Now Zarude obviously is a much more powerful Pokemon, but Shiftry does have its random niches. Now Dark Grass type Pokemon, your big 4x weakness is to bugs, so that's where the main Terastal focus is here, but also Fairy types are very common, so I've covered that as well. You have also got Fire, so you could definitely run like a Water or a Ground Terastal if you're really concerned about that. Obviously, again, it depends on how you built your team. But the main ones I would suggest, you've got your Fire type and your Flying type, and they cover the 4x effectiveness of the bug typing. So they get rid of the bug types and a variety of other typings that might want to come in as well. So for example, if a Fighting type wants to come in, the Flying type would cover that also. You've then got the Steel type to cover the Fairy types. Realistically, a Fairy type move is going to cause a lot of damage, but if you Terastal to a Steel type, it's going to do next to no damage, and you are going to have super effective attack against that Pokemon, assuming that you run Terrablast. Here we have Dragon and Grass types. Now the notable Pokemon here, we've got Appletun, Flapple, and also Alolan Exeggutor. You do have the Mega Sceptile aspect as well, but it's not looking likely that Megas are going to be in the game. So with this, you've got weaknesses, a 4x weakness to Ice, so you definitely need coverage for that. That's why I've put the Fire and the Steel Terastal here as well. You've got a weakness to Fairy types, which means that also that you are going to need the coverage in terms of Steel type or maybe even the Poison typing. You have even got a weakness to Poison typing, so you could run a Ground type or you could just run the Steel typing there to get an immunity to the Poison type. And I've also put the Ice type Terastal here because you have got a weakness to Flying, and Flying could be a problem there. You could also run Electric or Rock there. So lots and lots of really good options. I think Steel is probably the best Terastal typing here, but you could run any of those other ones that I have mentioned. Next up, we have the Electric Grass type. So there are two Electric Grass type Pokemon. There are Rotom Mow and also Hisuian Electrode. Now with this typing, there are three main weaknesses. You have got the Ice type weakness, you have got a Bug type weakness, and you've also got a Fire type weakness. Now covering Fire type, because that is the most likely one that is going to be shown, you have got Ground and Water type there, so that will cover any of your Fire type weakness that you need to see. Also the Water will be resistant to the Ice typing as well, so that's definitely an option for you to run there. In terms of the Bug typing, I've given it a Flying Terastal as well, because that could cover one of its potential weaknesses. You could potentially even have a Fire type Terastal to cover on the Ice type and the Bug type. That definitely would work alongside these as well, depending on what you personally want to run within your Next up is going to be the Grass and Fairy type Pokemon. So there are two Pokemon that fit this role in Tapu Bulu and Whimsicott. Now this Pokemon is hugely weak to Poison type attacks, 4x weak, so you need to have a Terastal realistic that covers that, and Ground and Psychic are probably your best ones to cover the Poison typing. So Ground Terastal works for the Poison typing as well as having the Steel typing from the Fairy type, and also works for the Psychic type, covering the Poison typing as well. Now with this, I've also suggested the Water type Terastal because there is the chance of there being a Fire type coming in or an Ice type coming in, and the Fire type obviously Water's super effective against, and Ice type would not be very effective against the Water type Pokemon, so that would work in your favour in this scenario. So I definitely would recommend any of these. I think Ground is probably going to be the best one, but you have also got Psychic and Water that's used to your advantage. Here we have the Fighting and Grass types. So we have got notable Pokemon of Breloom, Chesnaught and Virizion here. I'm pretty sure there are a couple more of Fighting Grass types out there, but those are the main three that I noticed. Now with this, you have got a huge weakness to Flying. So a 4x weakness to Flying, meaning that realistically your Terastal probably wants to cover that. So Ice and Electric, they definitely cover your Flying type weakness there as well. Now I have put Ghost on here because you have got a Psychic type weakness, and also you could run this to prevent taking damage from Poison types, for example, or as much damage from Poison types. So Ghost would definitely work, and it would give you 2 immunities in the process, as well as giving you a super effective attack against the Psychic type. So Ice and Electric probably going to be your best ones here. Even Rock would be really effective here to work well. You have obviously got Fire type, so Rock would actually be a really solid Terastal to use now that I think about it in retrospect. But any of the ones that I've spoken about would definitely be really good to use in this scenario. Next up we have Fire and Grass, which there are currently no Pokemon that have this typing. I know this in the Pokemon community is probably the one typing that everyone is asking for currently. Now, in this, we have 3 main weaknesses. You have Flying, you have Poison, and you have Rock. So, to cover each of those, we have got the Psychic type to cover the Poison weakness. You could also run a Ground type if you wanted to, but that is entirely up to you. We've then got Water type to cover your Rock weakness. The Rock weakness obviously being quite a big issue. And then you've got covering the Flying weakness, you have got the Electric type Terastal there. Now, as I said, you can run the Ground Terastal as well. That's definitely a really good 4th option, but all of those would definitely work, allowing you to prevent as much damage as possible on your Fire Grass type. Next up, we have the Flying and Grass types. The only 2 Pokemon currently that have this typing are Tropius and Jumpluff. However, this typing does have quite a few different weaknesses. So you do have the Ice weakness times 4, you do still have the Rock type weakness, you have the weakness associated with Grass as well, so you have Flying, you have Fire, and you also have the Ice type. So Ice type is the main one you want to focus on here, and that's why I've given you Steel and Fire as your Terastal types. Now, they both deal with the Ice types very, very well, and also can deal with a couple of the other typings involved also. So Steel will cover with the Rock types, and Fire can definitely cover a variety of different types that may want to come in, including the Fire type, which you are weak to yourself. It allows you to be able to absorb those hits much better. You've also got the Electric typing here as well, because Flying could definitely come in on this Pokemon. You could potentially even run like a Rock type Pokemon, or even an Ice type Pokemon in this scenario if you wanted to, but I think definitely trying to deal with a Terastal with the Ice type, dealing with the Ice type is going to be your biggest thing here. So I would say Steel or Fire are going to be your top options for the Terastal. Next up, we have the Ghost and Grass type here. So a few notable Pokemon here are Decidueye, Delmise, and Trevenant. You do have Gourgeist there as well, I just couldn't fit the picture on for all 4 of them. Now, with regards to the Ghost typing, you have the weakness of the Ghost type itself, and also the Dark typing, hence why I've given the Dark type Terastal, because that allows you to get not very effective damage from the Dark type, and also super effective damage on the Ghost typing. And we have the Fairy to again cover the Dark type Pokemon that might come in. Now, with regards to your Grass typing, you have got 2 weaknesses. You have got a Fire type weakness and also an Ice weakness. So with regards to the Fire type weakness, you might want to run a Ground type Pokemon, or possibly even a Water type Pokemon. With the Water type Pokemon, it would reduce the impact of the Ice type damage, because that would go to not very effective rather than super effective. So Water type could definitely work really well here as well. You could even run potentially like a Fighting type situation, but it would depend on what you personally need for your Terastal. Next up, we have the Grass Ground typing. Now, there is only one Pokemon that supports this typing in Torterra, and obviously Torterra is a really fun one to use. The big thing here is that you do have a 4 times Ice type weakness, which is a massive problem, as well as the other weaknesses on top of your Grass type. So the fact that you're weak to Fire, the fact that you're weak to Flying, you're weak to Bug, you're weak to Ice. You do get rid of the Water and Grass weakness from the ground though, so that is a benefit. But realistically here, again, your Rock type Terastal is going to be your best friend, because you have got super effective against Rock, Flying, no sorry, not Rock, Fire, Flying, Bug, and Ice. So Rock is going to work super well in combination with this. You've got Fire Fire typing as well, because that covers the Ice types and it also covers the Bug types as well. And then you've got Steel, which realistically it covers the Ice types. It's a 4-time weakness too. It resists Bug, it resists Flying. You have then got the Fire issue as well, so do be very cautious of that. But it's less likely a Fire type's going to come in on Torterra because, or a Grass Ground type, because of the Ground typing there. It's super effective. Stab, Ground type attack is going to hit them really hard. So I think Rock's your best here, but Fire and Steel are definitely really good alternatives to have. The next one we have is the Grass Ice type. Now, the only Pokemon that has this typing currently is Abomasnow, but in the future we could end up with more, so I'm just going to talk in general about this typing. So Grass Ice, the big immediate notice you have is a Fire type weakness. 4 times Fire type weakness, that is a huge problem for you. You're also weak to things like Bug, you're weak to things like Fighting, you are weak to Flying, which is unlikely to come in because of your Ice type. You are going to be weak to What's the other one for grass? Can't think. Ice is going to be neutral, so that's one benefit for there. And then you've got any of the ice weaknesses on top of that. So as I said, fighting. You've got steel weakness as well. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of problems involved with this typing. So with the grass type, to cover a lot of the weaknesses, typically you want to go for rock because it's super effective against a lot of the weaknesses, especially things like fire. I would say your main Terastal focus here is against fire types because they are the most likely ones to come in, because 4 times effectiveness means that they're likely to get an OK. So having the water type or the ground typing as well allows you to get super effective damage off on the fire type that could come in, and also changes your typing so you get resistances to a lot of other different typings as well. But I'd say rock is definitely the top one here because it covers most weaknesses, but ground and water are a secondary option. Next up, we have a fairly common type in the grass and poison typing. So a few notable Pokemon we have here: Venusaur, Amoonguss, Roserade, Vileplume, Victory Bell, but there are several more that do fit into this category as well. Now, the main weaknesses you have got here are going to be your fire type weakness, they're going to be your flying weakness, and they're going to be your psychic type weakness. And also fire. So, I might have said fire, I don't know. But what we're going with here is the rock type is the best Terastal here because it gets rid of the flying, it gets rid of the fire Pokemon as well. So super effective against both of those in most scenarios, of course. So your rock Terastal is going to work very, very well there. You've also got the water Terastal because it's super effective against the fire type and also basically nullifies any of your other weaknesses to just neutral damage. And then I've also put dark here because, as I said, psychic type is a weakness here. It allows you to get the immunity to the psychic types, which would be really beneficial for you, and neutralizes any of the other threats that would come in against this. So dark type, definitely a really fantastic one to have. I'd say rock's probably the best because it hits the most types, but water and dark, they change your typing enough to be able to work very, very effectively. Next up, we have got the grass and psychic type. So 3 notable Pokemon here. We have got Calyrex, we have got Exeggutor, and we have got Celebi. Now, these typically aren't the most used Pokemon, but in some aspects they can work quite well. So immediately, the big standout weakness here is the bug type. You are 4 times weak to bugs, which is going to be a huge problem for you, which is why I put the rock typing on here again. Now, the rock typing does also cover some of your other weaknesses, being flying types, also fire types as well, and even flying types. I think I might have said flying types twice. Ice types. So you've got the main weaknesses all associated with grass are covered by the rock typing, and your 4 times weakness to bug typing is covered by rock as well. So rock Terastal here is absolutely fantastic. I've also gone for the fire because it, 1, gets rid of your 4 times weakness to bug and allows you to have a super effective attack. It also allows for you to be not very effective against the fire types that are coming in, and it also means that you've got super effective against the ice types that could come in as well. Now, with regards to obviously having the dark type weakness, that is quite a big problem, but you could run a fighting type Terastal here, which would allow you to be able to get rid of the dark type. Also, a fairy type Terastal, if you wanted to, would definitely work here as well, but you have still got the poison weakness associated with grass, so do be cautious with going with the fairy type, because obviously the fairy type will be weak to the poison weakness that you do have here as well. So rock, I would say, is your best. You've then got fire, but you have also got fighting as an option to cover on your fairy type, not your fairy type, your psychic type weakness. Next up, we have got the grass rock type, only noted with Cradily. Now, we have got a few weaknesses associated here. You've got the poison typing, you've got the fighting typing, you've got the steel typing, to name the first 3 of them. You won't have to worry about flying types in this sense because you have got a rock type covering you, which obviously means that it's going to go to neutral damage and a flying type is unlikely to come in. Now, what I would recommend here is to possibly go for a steel type. It will cover the ice type weakness and also give you an immunity to the poison type, as well as if another steel type wants to come in to try and hit you, then they're going to have not very effective damage against you. With regards to fire, I think that would work potentially even better, because you will have super effective against ice and also super effective against steel if that wants to come in as well. So you've got 2 really strong prevalent types there that you can hit against for super effective damage. And then you've got the flying type, and that covers particularly the bug type weakness as well as the fighting type weakness there as well, so works also for super effective against multiple different types, but do be cautious, obviously, because you are going to be weak to the ice type damage that you could potentially take. So I'd say fire and flying are both really, really good here, and in fact steel is good defensively, whereas fire and flying I think are better in the offensive sense. Next up we have got the grass steel type. Now there's two Pokemon with this, there's Ferrothorn and there's Kartana, and they only have two weaknesses. One is a huge weakness to fire ×4, and you've also got a weakness to fighting as well. Those are the two weaknesses that you do have here. Now, in terms of fire, you can definitely Terastal into a water type, even a ground type or a rock type. But bear in mind with the rock type that you would be taking damage from the potential fighting type attack as well. So that's the least beneficial one there. But I think rock or ground definitely work very well as an option here. But with regards to the fighting type aspect, you definitely could have a fairy or a flying type. Now, I would definitely recommend the flying type over the fairy type, just because if the fairy type, if a fire type Pokemon comes in, you're not going to hit for as effective damage as you would do with flying type, because it will be not very effective. You could also run the psychic type Terastal here as well if you wanted to, but it's entirely up to you how you decide to run it. If you're worried really about the fire weakness and want to run, for example, like a ground Terastal to be able to hit the fire type super effectively, or the water type to hit the fire type very effectively, again, those work fantastically. Then you've got flying, psychic, which work really well. Fairy, you do need to be cautious of because the fire type's coming in, but it can also work as well, depending on how your team is built. Next up, we have got the grass water type. Now, the only grass water Pokemon we have currently is Ludicolo, and it's not the best, but it can be quite good, but it's not amazing. Love to see a new grass water Pokemon because it's just such a cool typing. Now, with this typing, you have got three weaknesses. You have got a weakness to poison, a weakness to bug, and a weakness to flying. So there are a couple of ways that you can run this, looking at each of the weaknesses. Now, unfortunately, there aren't any double ups, so you do have to make a good prediction here, but all three of these changes should put you in a position where you're not going to take super effective damage. So, with regards to the poison type weakness, you have got a psychic type Terastal here. You could definitely run the psychic type Terastal to really take out any of those poison types that are going to be problematic for you. You could run a ground Terastal, but Psychic works better against the flying and also the bug typing, so Psychic over ground is definitely far better. The flying type Terastal covers your bug type weakness and will also give you that immunity to things like ground, and will just allow you to hit for neutral damage on other typings such as things like fighting. And then we have electric to be able to cover the flying type Pokemon, which can cause super effective damage against you. You could potentially run rock, actually, now that I think about it, to hit both the flying and the bug type there. So actually rock would probably be the best Terastal typing here in retrospect now that I'm recording it. So definitely go for rock as a priority, but if not, any of those other three will work really well. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every single view that any of these videos get, and you know, I've put so much time into this that if you made it this way, then all I can do is thank you with my heart, because you know, you're what helps the channel. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. As I said, if you could interact, I'd really appreciate it. Comment down below if there are any ones that you disagree with, or any ones that you would add a different Terastal typing to, and give your reasoning for it as well. And I'd really love to see that. I think that would be a really, really cool way to interact with me, and I will definitely take a look at them and I'll try and reply as much as I can. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.